Cloudcast Media.
Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media, and we are always pleased to have these folks in the studio. They have great content. They're doing amazing things for families in San Diego and Imperial counties, and that's the Alzheimer's Association of San Diego and Imperial Chapter. Joining us is Ron Lewis, Vice Chair of this association. How you doing there, Ron?
Pretty good. Thank you, Drew.
How long you been working with Alzheimer's Association?
Really since 2019 here in San Diego.
Okay.
I came on as a walk event chair for the North County. I responded to an advertisement that was on LinkedIn, and they responded. So I was kind of surprised at that, but they responded and had a great interview with Joni Ewing and at the time Katie Krusky, who was the ED at the time.
Sure.
And it was just like a match that was made to be. And
here you are.
Here I am, yeah.
And for many years to come, I'm sure, too, and joined by my longtime colleague and friend, Courtney Pendleton, Public Relations and Community Manager for Mission Fed Credit Union. And Courtney and I will not say how long we've known each other, but it's been a while. Always good to see your smiling face, Courtney.
Thanks so much for having us on.
Always good to have you on. Talk about, before we get to Ron, Mission Fed, you guys are all over the community doing spectacular things. I've been doing it for more than 60 years, but Alzheimer's is something near and dear to your heart.
Absolutely, and we're so pleased for this to be our second year that we are partnering with the Alzheimer's Association and being their main sponsor for June, which is Alzheimer's and Brain Awareness Month, which is so important. And that's just why we're here, Drew. I mean, we do so many things in the community, and that's how this one came about. We actually polled our employees, our 600 employees throughout the county, and asked, hey, we do so much in the community, but what are we not supporting that we should be supporting? And Alzheimer's and other dementia-related things is what came up as the number one. And so we were so pleased to get in touch with the Alzheimer's Association last year and just being able to donate $10,000 and a lot of other in-kind donations through media and other awareness efforts just to talk about it, to put it out there and learn more about it, just all of us.
Yeah, well, good for your employees, because I don't know if there's anybody probably in the world for that matter, but we're living into San Diego County with 3.3 million people that doesn't know of somebody who's been affected by this disease. Either it's themselves or it's their family and so forth. And Ron, talk a little bit about the mission of the association.
Well, I think really the best way to describe it is our care and support, to be able to provide resources for families, those that are struggling with dementia and Alzheimer's, to give them the backbone that they need to kind of travel through this journey. It truly is a journey, and it's not something that's an easy thing to do, and especially trying to do it alone. You need some care and support from family members as well as those in the community with resources from assisted living, nursing associations, be able to come in and provide care, or just education. How do I deal with this as a family member, as a child, as a parent? How do I deal with my parents who are going through this transition in their life? And the association itself is really about providing resources, outreach, and funding for those that are working in clinical trials or research as a whole, and be able to kind of support them in their efforts to find a cure for this disease.
Right now, June is Alzheimer's and Brain Awareness Month. But Ron, for our listeners, we always ask this question. Yeah. Is Alzheimer's a part of dementia, or is dementia a part of Alzheimer's?
I would say Alzheimer's is the end point.
Okay.
And it's a collective of a number of different types of dementia.
Right.
And the Alzheimer's itself has more of a clinical basis to it, where you have solid biomarkers or physical endpoints that are recognized as being symptomatic of Alzheimer's. And dementias are just a collective of various disease types where you have some sort of memory loss or inability to function as a whole, and collectively they'll make up the disease of Alzheimer's.
All right, we are chatting with Ron Lewis, Vice Chair for Alzheimer's Association of San Diego and Imperial Chapter, joined by his colleague Courtney Pendleton, Public Relations and Community Manager for Mission Fed Credit Union. I'm Drew Schlosberg. You're listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, brought to you by Mission Fed, one of the most wonderful organizations, these beautiful Mission Fed studios here in Scripps Ranch, and Mission Fed for more than 6 decades, continue doing great things in the community. Now, Ron, do you have any personal connection with Alzheimer's?
I do actually. 2013, my mom was diagnosed with vascular dementia, which progressed into full-on Alzheimer's. Unfortunately, she passed away last year.
Sorry to hear that.
So we're just 1 year out of her passing from Alzheimer's. But yeah, so that has been part of the journey and why I got involved. With her living in Georgia, I'm here in San Diego, being a long-distance caregiver, bit of a challenge. And how do I navigate this process? How do I navigate and take care of my mom, being 3,000 miles away down here in San Diego? I'm here, and she's over there on the East Coast. And how do we manage that? And being able to reach out to the Alzheimer's Association in the Georgia region, I was able to find some valuable information and resources to work with her and her community, and then also reaching out to the San Diego chapter to find information for myself, to educate myself on what I need to do to be able to provide for her from a distance. And so that's been, my entry into this whole space. So.
Right. Well, that's very, very personal in that aspect. And before we get to you and chat about the longest day, I wanted to really go on to something that Ron had said. And we talk about it quite a bit when we have this association on, and that's caregiving. Yep. There's, 600,000 caregivers in San Diego County. 300,000 of them look like us. No training. Yep. By the way, you are a caregiver right now, and a lot of them dealing with Alzheimer's and dementia and so forth on that. Just talk about all of a sudden you're thrown into this, and what do I do? You happen to be several thousand miles away, but for the folks here now, it can be pretty disruptive, can it not?
It can, and I think the key part of it is making sure you have a strong enough network around you that can support you, whether that be in the workplace or family and friends, and make sure that you're all on the same page of how are you going to manage this. For my personal journey, I had to work with my family on the East Coast to come up with a plan. How are we going to take care of my mom? And, fortunately, my cousin stepped up and said, I will continue to live with her and be her day-to-day caregiver.
Right.
And so he took on that responsibility. My responsibility was more about taking care of the household, the finances, making sure they had everything they needed. And then we had family, friends, church members around her to kind of keep her in that comfort space. Originally thought about bringing her out here to San Diego when she was diagnosed, but we had the conversation with her, and she was still cognizant at the time, and she's like, "No, I don't want to move to San Diego. I want to stay in my home." And so, to me, that says, "Okay, Ronnie, you got to do what you need to do to keep your mom in her home and keep her in her happy space." And I think that is what's key to dealing with, family members who are suffering from Alzheimer's or any form of dementia, to be in a comfortable space. And so we did our best to keep her friends coming into the house, visiting with her, taking her out to her favorite places, the movies, shopping, things that she loved to do. And that way, that kind of slowed the progression, kept the familiar setting for her, and didn't disrupt her day-to-day.
Yeah.
And so I think that is so vital to do. And, getting the support from the helpline, and learning about what I can do to be a better caregiver and support for her was essential.
Well, there's nothing that's more important than when there's an issue with a family member that know there's a legion behind you, shoulder to shoulder on that. Right. Courtney, now, do you have personal experience with Alzheimer's and dementia?
I don't. But
you're young though, so you're with 25.
I wish I was maybe almost double that, but still, I think when Ron and I were talking, before this too, and I think since we even Mission Fed launched being part of this campaign last year, and I talked a lot about this with the Alzheimer's team last year. Right. It was incredible about how many of our colleagues started sharing their own personal stories. And I was telling Ron too, and commend him for being so vulnerable and telling us his story. Right. He also had shared that he received a call from his mother's employer, an HR lead, who also had experienced this with their own loved ones and was able to kind of tell Ron about the signs that they were seeing in his mother. And, I think it's just being, with Mission Fed and our employees, my colleagues, not knowing about their own personal stories until we started supporting this, or we, hearing when I was polling everybody about what organization, what cause we should be supporting. And so many of my own close colleagues that I work with who were sharing their own personal stories of their own parent or grandparent. We have a board member who had also had Alzheimer's. I believe this was a long time ago, but again, it's something that's near and dear to all of us and affects so many of us. I think too, I also understand, and just being the role that I'm in for Mission Fed, trying to see if any of our colleagues would be willing to come and share their stories. And that's so difficult sometimes to personally talk about it, without, getting maybe emotional. They don't want to get emotional on Drew's show today, things like that. But it's just been so, I've learned so much for not having, personally experienced it, just through what my colleagues are going through. We have another branch manager who has been caring for her mother for a long time too. And her and I often chat and, check in, see how she's doing as well. And it's, it's even the financial piece, being a financial institution, right? That piece, so many people need help on and know how to, what to do and how to help support a family member through that kind of stuff too. So, well,
what happens is, and then we come back from break, we're going to talk a little bit more about it, but now you are a fundraiser, or you have a job, but you need to stop your job and you're now to take care of your mom or your dad or your sibling, whatever the case may be. You're now not bringing in an income. We're not sure what that other person's income was. And you're right. It's a big deal. We do come back from break. I want to talk about the longest day that you folks are involved in. Absolutely talk about some of the fundraising, efforts on this. I'm laser beamed on research, as Courtney knows. My father was a medical doctor, Ron, and so I worked for taught medicine at UCLA. But research is so critical, to say the least. If you maybe find something for some of these neurological issues, maybe not only Alzheimer's gets solved, maybe Huntington's disease, maybe fill in the blank, right? Lou Gehrig's and all that down the road. But I definitely want to talk about the CMS rally and pique our listeners' interest to make sure they're going to come back after the break, and they will, to talk about that as well, as we've been chatting with our friends from the Alzheimer's Association of San Diego Imperial Chapter. Ron Lewis is vice chair, joined by Courtney Pendleton, public relations community manager at Mission Fed, who stepped up big time to 4 billion things in this community, but Alzheimer's is one of them. I'm Drew Schlosberg, and you're listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show here in beautiful Mission Fed studio in Scripps Ranch. Mission Fed continuing for 6 decades to do great things in San Diego. We will be right back.
When you do your banking with Mission Fed, you get great rates on auto and home loans. That's good for you, but something good also happens for a lot of other people. We're not for profit, so we put money back into the community to help lots of great nonprofits to keep San Diego strong. So you're not just getting something good, you're doing something good. Come to Mission Fed. It's banking that's good for all.
Brand amplification is the DNA of Cloudcast Media, and our code is the powerful blending of sound, voice, and storytelling to lift local brands and their communities. Whether it is our Brandcast, Schoolcast, or Causecast platforms, the unifying ethos is all about this community, the one you call home. If you dare to dream and want to explore the brand amplification of Cloudcast, a national leader in local podcasting and other Winfluence strategies, please visit us at cloudcast.us.
I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media. You're listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, the nation's longest running community podcast, now in its 17th year. We are joined by our friends from the Alzheimer's Association of San Diego and Imperial Chapter, Ron Lewis. He's the vice chair, joined by his colleague, Courtney Pendleton, public relations and community manager for Mission Fed Credit Union. And Mission Fed has been doing spectacular work in our community in so many different fronts for more than 6 decades. Courtney, we were chatting just a little bit before we went to break about the longest day. What's that about?
Yeah, so I think personally, this is my favorite part of this month, and I just love the messaging behind it. So the longest day is June 21st, which is also the summer solstice. So it's a big, of course, fundraising and awareness push for the Alzheimer's Association. But this is the messaging that I just love, and I'm going to read it verbatim because I don't want to mess it up.
Please.
But it's June 21st is the day with the most light, and a day to remember to fight the darkness of Alzheimer's through a fundraising activity of your choice. Also, wearing purple, the color of Alzheimer's awareness, is an important thing. But folks,
you should have let me know, and I would have worn my purple outfit. You know.
We are all doing that for you,
you are
today.
Doing it for
we
me.
are very purple.
You are.
But if you go to the Alzheimer's Association website, you can choose your own, fundraising activity. People can really get involved and get behind it. Throughout the whole month, but especially on the longest day. And I just think that campaign is, our Mission Fed branches last year decorated in purple for it, and just to help bring awareness and again, just additional fundraising opportunities for a cause that's so important.
Yeah, and what it really gets down to is, and we've known this for a long time, as we are living longer, just the nature of us living longer, it's going to raise the chances of us getting Alzheimer's and dementia until we do and support groups like Ron's to find a cure for this. So we don't have to say you're inevitably going to get it. And wouldn't that be a beautiful day and say it's not going to be inevitable anymore? What do you think about that, Ron?
I think that has to be fantastic that especially now we're in the age and era of treatment. So we've come a long way in the last 5 years. So we've got a great opportunity now to be able to, treat patients and see a benefit from them, especially if we catch it early.
Right.
With the early detection, we can get patients on, approved medications now sooner, and that'll definitely slow the progression of the disease.
Right. So, Courtney, you were talking about this. One of my closest friends, actually my former lawyer, but now has on-site Alzheimer's, and he's young-ish. I consider myself young-ish. So I guess it's all in perspective. To Abe Lincoln, I'm young, I guess. But the point being, and now he's dealing with it, and man, it is something. But to your point, they caught it early enough, Ron, where he's taking some medication, and I think it's slowing it down a little bit in that. So talk about just how critical research is, and when people donate, it is so every penny helps.
That's true, Drew. A lot of the dollars that come into the Alzheimer's Association does support research, and I think San Diego is an anomaly, being the hotbed of research in biotech. We've got a lot of brain power here. We've been fortunate enough to get a lot of those donated dollars, to come back into the San Diego region to support research at UCSD, USC, the Alzheimer's Research Center here, the Salk Institute, and a couple of biotech companies like DT Pharma. They're doing some great research, and we've been fortunate enough to, I think, over the years to come close to about $13 million that have been invested back into San Diego.
That's great.
Researchers and clinical trial support. So.
Yeah, is there some headway being made? I know there's some in, if it's detected early, taking some medication that maybe just slow it down. And hopefully we'll go from slow it down to stop and all that aspect. Talk about that with some of the pluses that have been made on the research side. Yeah,
so being in the era of treatment, we've been very fortunate over the last 2 years, really, to see two medications be approved by the FDA. You have acanumab and lecanemab. These are two recent approvals. The FDA has, granted fast track approval for each of these drugs, and they are performing well. The second generation lecanemab is proving to be better than the first approved drug, and that's how drug discovery goes.
Right.
It's a stepping stone,
sure.
right? And so we are definitely seeing improvement. We're seeing that these drugs do delay the progression of the disease, which is fantastic. And recently Eli Lilly and their site here has shown that from their clinical trials that they are seeing even better results in the clinic for treating some of these symptoms and delaying the progression of Alzheimer's.
Right, that sounds great. We're chatting with Ron Lewis. He's the vice chair of the Alzheimer's Association of San Diego Imperial Chapter, joined by Courtney Pendleton, public relations and community manager for Mission Fed Credit Union. I'm Drew Schlosberg, as you're listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the community show here in the Mission Fed studio in Scripps Ranch. So talk about this challenge, CMS challenge. What is that all about, and can people help with this?
Yeah, so that's a great question, Drew. I'd say a few months ago, the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, CMS, had come out with a statement that they were not going to support the funding of Alzheimer's drugs,
right?
Until there was more data out there available. But the Alzheimer's Association has been pushing, trying to, get legislators and CMS to say, hey, there is some benefit to these patients being able to have access to these approved medications, whether it be a fast-tracked approved medication or a fully approved drug by the FDA. And more recently, I think just yesterday, CMS has come out to say that they will begin to fund, accept or access to these, provided the physicians are on their registry, so that the federal government can go ahead and track how well their patients are doing on medications that have not been fully approved. They have this fast track approval, and they're not fully approved yet. So we as at the association still believe that all patients should have access to these medications that have been approved by the FDA, whether it be a fast track approval or fully approved. This way, this provides access to the patients without doctors having to be on this registry that they're requiring. But once the FDA says, yes, this medication is safe for our patients to use, and we know that there's benefit, let's give them access to it.
Right. So is that a little bit of a success story yesterday? Not quite there all the way, correct?
Not quite there all the way. And like we mentioned earlier, it's It's a stepping stone,
That's right?
It's a step in the right direction, but I think there's still more work to be done, more discussion to be had, where they recognize that there is a full benefit for patients and family members.
Right. So my next step is going to be, all right, how do we get those folks at CMS to move a little faster? And would that be the families of people that have benefited from some of these approved drugs of FDA, and say, what are you doing? Are you kidding me? Here is, I can give you 4,000 examples of why this is good. If 4 billion people flooded them with this stuff, would that be a good thing?
I think so. And again, it's really kind kind of starts at the grassroots,
Sure,
right?
of course.
You reach out to your
That's right.
legislators because they have access,
Yes,
and
yes.
they're sitting on the committees with these decision makers, and say,
Right.
hey, my constituents are saying we need access to these medications. Their family members need that. So
Right.
continue to get the word out and kind of pressure our legislators to say, hey, take a look at this a little bit differently. We know that there's benefit. Rethink your thought processes on this decision about limited or restricted access to medications, but definitely continue to get the word out, and that hopefully that'll help move the needle a little bit further to the right.
Okay, listeners, you've been given your marching orders, okay, on this, anybody, whether you've been touched by Alzheimer's or not, you're going to be somewhere down the road. I don't mean that in a negative stance. It's just what's going to happen. Reach out to we have some wonderful congressional leaders here in San Diego County that really do vote a lot with their heart on this, and hopefully that'll put some good thoughts in their head as they move forward in D.C. Again, we're chatting with Ron Lewis, Vice Chair of the Alzheimer's Association of San Diego and Imperial Chapter, joined by Courtney Pendleton, Public Relations and Community Manager. So, Courtney, you folks, we can't say this enough. What I love about what Mission Fed has done forever, and it's more than checkbook philanthropy. When you guys get involved, you get involved. That means the employees get involved, the employees' families get involved. I'm sure you're dragging your kids to some of these things that support it, and I know you do. But talk about how important that is. It's more than just giving money. Money doesn't hurt. We know that. But it's getting you folks 100% ingrained in it.
Absolutely. I mean, that's just in our DNA at Mission Fed. And that's
Right.
what brought me here, especially being in the nonprofit world, myself before coming over to Mission Fed. And that's what I love about it is that time, talent, treasures, right? It's like the whole trifecta of being involved and learning so much about it, too, which is one of my favorite things is just learning about all the different causes and nonprofits that we have throughout San Diego, but especially for this one. I did just want to mention too,
Please.
Again, just for listeners to get involved, alz.org/San Diego for all of the details for what's going on in June, a lot of different programs and support that the Alzheimer's Association is doing around this important month, including, a lot of different workshops, and also the longest day fundraisers that are happening throughout the county as well throughout the month, including going to BJ's restaurants all month. They're also donating for this important cause.
Hazard Center.
I know they've been an important partner of the Alzheimer's Association too. But there's a lot to do and a lot of different ways to get involved. And like I said too, even starting your own longest day fundraiser, and there's a lot of really fun ideas that they have on the site too.
No, that's good. That's great. Ron, got about a minute or so to go. What can our listeners do to support your efforts besides what Courtney just said?
I think really just getting involved and supporting your family members. We have a lot of great opportunities here in San Diego. We've got coming up in the month of July a breakfast meeting with our business leaders to kind of introduce this to their businesses so that they can recognize what's going on. And then we also have two big walks coming up in the fall. We have the North County Walk to End Alzheimer's at Kit Carson Park on September 23rd, and then the larger walk in San Diego at Liberty Station on October 7th. And, bring your companies, bring your friends, form teams, and that's really the best way to, get the word out, continue to raise funds, and provide support and care for our family members that need help.
Well, I can guarantee you're going to be back on the radio, our show before that, to shout those things out. And I'd love to make this offer to you as well. And you make that decision. As Courtney well knows, when we have folks on, we had Homo Guiding Hands on. They're going to bring some of their developmentally challenged folks on next interview. If you want to bring on a family that has benefited from the Alzheimer's Association's programs and services, we're not trying to break any HIPAA laws and all that, but some people are very comfortable talking about their story. It's always when you have that street cred, that helps as well. Give some thought to that.
Yeah, definitely.
If you have someone who wants to come in and do that, we can chat about that as well, especially with those couple events coming up. So, Ron, what a pleasure. Nice to meet you. And this will not be the last time you'll be on the show.
Well, thank you, Drew. I appreciate it.
And Courtney, always great to see you, my longtime, very cool colleague, and continuing to do great work in San Diego County now at Mission Fed Credit Union, and look forward to when you're back on the air with me.
Thanks, Drew.
You bet. We've been chatting with our friends from the Alzheimer's Association of San Diego and Imperial Chapter. We'd be remiss if I didn't give a shout out to Eric Thompson, by the way, who's sitting to my left over here, as you've been listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the community show, the nation's longest running community podcast, now in its 17th year, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union for more than 6 decades, continuing to do great things for us folk in San Diego County. We hope you enjoyed the show.
You've been listening to an episode of Drew Schlosberg's Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego community. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
Cloudcast Media.